Hello everyone, it's your host and founder of the American Rail Club, Demetrius Villa, and we got a special guest today, the one and only Rick Harnish of the now newly named High Speed Rail Alliance. You may have seen him on a couple of videos that we've had. We've also attended when it used to be the Midwest High Speed Rail Association, but now the High Speed Rail Alliance. Welcome aboard, Rick.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Alrighty, and it has just been... I know we were going to try to do this earlier, but this year has just been completely insane. I mean, we're still here. That's the good thing. We are still here. We're still kicking, and the trains are still moving at some point.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
All right. Fantastic. Well, tell us a little bit more for I know there's some folks here that haven't seen you or aren't familiar with the High Speed Rail Alliance. Tell them a little bit more about that and where you get your start with that and what you guys do.
So we're a group of individuals. Our members are people who want to ride high-speed trains, who know what happens if we have high-speed trains in terms of better communities, much cleaner environment, and a lot stronger connections between people because high-speed trains allow you to travel much more frequently. And, we help policymakers understand what needs to happen to make high-speed rail happen, and we give our members and the public the tools they need to tell their policymakers that it's time to make it happen.
Yeah, that's the thing. And of course, here at the American Rail Club, we're just speaking to the choir over here because everybody knows that, we do need trains in this country, and everybody else is just plowing ahead infrastructure-wise when it comes to high-speed rail, transit, passenger rail, and anything in between, you name it. But definitely high-speed rail has been the big focus here of this club and yours, your association as well, and so many other around the country, so we can get this get this moving. We really badly do need high-speed rail to connect our regions together.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's frustrating that, today in China, you could walk up to the train station in Shanghai and be pretty sure that you can get on a train within the next hour or two and be in Beijing within 5 hours. That's like Chicago to New York.
No, it's insane. And it's just crazy how in the past 15 years, China's just basically built up their high-speed rail from nothing to twice the amount of rail trackage of high-speed rail around the world combined in that country.
Yeah, so they've connected Boston to Miami, to New Orleans, to St. Paul, and they even have an extension out to Salt Lake City, and everything in between there they've built in the last decade. It's very frustrating that we don't have a mile yet.
I mean, I just wish that, and that's the thing in this country, we used to be banded together in order to do something, and like, of course, me, of Cuban origin, I mean, if there's one thing I hate more, it's communism, but you got to give the Chinese credit. When it comes to getting their country into one singular vision and getting everybody banded together in order to go ahead and push that vision together, they can do it. They've got the resources, the tools, and the manpower, and they will do it no matter what. And that's something we really need to get in this country, is to get that together. Like, of course we're, not as unified as we are now, and things have gotten, I wouldn't say a little worse, but whichever way things go, but we need to wake up and really get together, or else we're, it's not just the country we're going to lose. I mean, it's a whole lot of other people are just going to push ahead of us, and we're not going to be number one anymore.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, I mean, I'm just, high-speed rail is just one of those things that we need to really get in this country, not just, jobs-wise. I mean, we've just lost so many jobs this year. It's just incredible. It's insane.
Yeah, and the construction jobs that would go along with building high-speed rail, it's not just construction, it's a lot of other stuff, a lot of electrical engineers, a lot of civil engineers, road builders, because there's a lot of road that goes... Changing the roads goes along with building high-speed rail. It would be a huge, very productive job program.
Right, and we've seen this already going on in Florida with the Bright Line, of course, and how they've been moving, just heaven and earth to get to Orlando. And even during the pandemic, they've just gotten faster in order to get over to Orlando. And I think they're going to be there getting a little earlier than they anticipated because of all those, all the jobs now that they're opening up, even during the pandemic, in order to get, construction, building tunnels and bridges through, up to connect Cocoa to Orlando. So. And we're seeing this also in California as well. I mean, a lot of people give California a lot of grief, from both sides. But, I mean, they're still building, and they still have a lot of people employed there, even during this time, in order to build that project.
Absolutely. So, you can go on YouTube and look. There are videos of the construction of both California and Brightline.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them. And because it really is real, it's really happening. And we're really excited that they announced where the station would be at Disney. So in the next couple of years, you'll be able to take a train from Disney to Miami.
Yeah, that's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
And as someone who's a native Floridian, I mean, the amount of people that will be going for not just day trips, but weekend trips and just from South Florida alone to Orlando and vice versa. That's just going to be crazy, the amount of people going on there, especially when all this is over. The amount of people flooding into Orlando from South Florida. I mean, that's just a winner right there.
Oh, and the important thing is they're going to have a station right on the docks.
Right.
So that you'll have people getting on trains at Disney and going straight to their cruise ships. And so that'll introduce the concept of modern trains to a vast slice of the population. And, unfortunately, what people think of because of Disney as modern transportation is the monorail, right? Which is a 50-mile-an-hour small bus. But this will really introduce a lot of Americans to modern trains. So it's really exciting.
Right. And the monorail, I mean, it's a small, but I mean, there were places that the monorails have done really well. Like, unfortunately, just the technology hasn't kept up in terms of maintenance and whatnot. And maglev has basically supplanted that. I mean, it's just rather sad. I mean, to see that was going to be the future, and then it just never really caught on.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And speaking of things that are just really moving ahead, Amtrak, just last week, right during the Thanksgiving weekend, they announced their new president, Stephen Flynn.
Yeah. So you have it wrong. And now you've put their name out of my head. But they did announce a new president. That was anticipated that would happen for some time. And the key is that all around the country, we need to be telling Congress that it's time to make Amtrak a truly national system that is expanding throughout the country. Exactly. And not just little pockets here and there. They really need to be expanding nationwide, and they need to be a national system. And so people all around the country should be telling their congressmen that.
Right. And I mean, we've seen Amtrak now moving forward with the new Avelia. We've seen that testing. Right now we put up some test footage that they had up in Pueblo, Colorado. And it looks incredible. And to see that could actually reach 220 miles an hour, but we don't have the infrastructure available for it to even reach those speeds all throughout the Northeast Corridor, it's kind of sad. And we have that opportunity to be able to do that, but Congress throughout the last 50 years of Amtrak has really, it hasn't gone forward so much with Amtrak as much as we've seen with road building and with the airlines. I mean, even now this new COVID relief bill that they're putting in, Amtrak I believe is getting $1 billion or so, and the airlines are getting $17 billion. That's not going to help fix anything long term in order to sort of rectify that balance, that imbalance that we've had for the last 50 years or so.
Well, I remember when Amtrak was formed. So you can't say it was 50 years ago, because then that makes me more than 60. But it was formed in 1971. Right. But, it's really been going on since World War I, where The feds have been investing very heavily in highways and allowing the railroad network to decline. And it's still that process happening today. And again, that's why we need to have people throughout the country telling Congress it's really time to invest in passenger rail, not just with Amtrak, but with building new infrastructure for high-speed rail together. And it really is important in that proposed bill. So basically, right now, what's happening is there's an extra appropriation that's in negotiations as we speak that would provide money to keep the airline business, other public transit. So let's be clear from here on out. The airlines are public transit.
There we go. Yeah.
So you are getting in a vehicle with the public, in a vehicle, that vehicle might leave the ground, but it's a public vehicle funded with public funds.
Exactly.
Airlines are public transit.
That's really the misconception that people need to get over, is that the airlines, as much as they want to say they're private companies, you still pay for them whether you fly with the airlines or not. It's the same
Absolutely.
thing with Amtrak and the same thing on the roads.
Yes. And so that bill has $17 billion for the airlines. I forgot how much for local transit. $1 billion for Amtrak. And here's an interesting addition, $8 billion for intercity bus service. And I am all for that. Let's spend $8 billion really making sure intercity bus service works, but let's spend $8 billion on Amtrak. Right. So it's, again, right now, it's really critical that people are calling Congress and saying, I want to have high quality modern trains across the country.
Right. And it does need to be, both a federal and state and regional efforts to get that done. And I mean, a lot of people have been disenfranchised, I would say, from the federal government. I mean, myself included, in saying that they're going to be able to fix not just Amtrak, but maybe other regional forms of transportation as well. And we've seen this in other, in states like California has basically taken the lead in saying, well, we're going to be able to just do this ourselves and fund it ourselves. To which amount of success, I mean, we'll later see on. But Florida, of course, they're a private company with Brightline, but they've gotten a lot of help from the Florida state governor before, from Rick Scott, in order to get this to push on forward, and from the Florida board, the FDFC, the Florida Financial Committee, as well, in order to get public bonds available for Amtrak. Again, those are public bonds from the state, which, again, Brightline will have to pay back. And we're seeing sort of the same situation over in Texas. So, I mean, if we could see something like this go in between the states, and let's say Florida and Georgia were to go ahead and say, hey, let's connect Brightline up to Atlanta, or, maybe up to Tennessee or to North Carolina, and then you have, sort of a coalition come up from there. I mean, where do you see that sort of coming?
Well, so certainly Brightline's success will lead to success elsewhere. That is absolutely true. But, the Federal Railroad Administration is doing planning work on regional systems.
Right.
So they did, they're doing one for basically a 500-mile circle around Chicago and a 500-mile circle around Atlanta, right? But there's an interesting thing that happens when those happens, because they meet at Nashville.
Right.
So they've basically demonstrated that there's a case for building high-speed rail from St. Paul to Chicago to Indianapolis to Louisville to Nashville to Atlanta to Jacksonville, Orlando, and Miami.
Right.
And a lot of people think that's crazy. We have this real misconception that high-speed rail should be in short little segments. But that's not the way transportation works. It works as a system. And today, you can ride a high-speed train the distance of Chicago to Miami. On a one-seat ride, takes about 8 hours. So we really need to be thinking national like that, and take that key success that is going to happen when Brightline reopens from Orlando to Miami. and use that to build the case across the country.
Exactly, and of course we've understood that market share when it comes to what gets the most amount of people onto a train, and we've seen, of course, 250 to 500 miles or 300 to 500 miles. It's around that range, depending on where you go from. But we know that there are people who take high-speed rail, whatever small market share between longer hours. But the thing is, the real big thing, like you just mentioned, is that throughout one large section of an 8-hour ride, there's still smaller rides going on in between, connecting all those urban areas in between. I mean, we've seen this, in Japan and whatnot. You can connect all the way down from, the top island from Sapporo all the way down to Kyushu. Not that most people do it, but you have the ability to do that. And I mean, even myself, I mean, if I've from Indianapolis to Miami, and that's just a crazy drive to go through, going all the way down. It's a nice drive, but, after, once you get through Georgia and Florida, the drive's a lot less bumpy, and it's not as interesting anymore. But for people that want to go ahead and do that, and you got to understand, people who understand that when they go on airlines, most of the time you're not just getting a one-way flight. Sometimes you have to go ahead and take layovers in one place, and it's not as quick as it makes you think. And then that what would be a 3-hour flight turns into 10 hours with layovers in between and whatnot if you're not taking a direct flight. So if you have a direct train ride, which is always going to be a direct train ride, you have the ability to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I want to point out, in China they have high-speed sleepers. So they have sleeper trains that are running at high speed. And you can go like Chicago to St. Paul on a sleeper train. So one thing I just want to emphasize, trains are very flexible and very versatile. So you can have them for lots of different purposes.
Right. And you have a lot more room on a train than you do on a plane. And that just, I mean, we've seen what the airline industry is doing with seats now. They're trying to think of ways to go ahead and, until the whole COVID crisis, they were thinking of ways to just cram in people that they're basically standing up in airlines. But you don't see that type of thing on rail lines. I mean, even on the cheapest seats in any rail line, any high-speed rail line around the world, you have enough more space than on first class.
Frequently, yes. I have to point out, I'm sorry, but China's trains, high-speed trains, are really big.
They are,
1,200 seats, right? But you can buy a standing room only ticket.
Oh, they have those too.
That's how many people are riding the trains.
Oh man,
is that they sell standing room only?
Right. Again, my only experience of riding on high-speed rail has been in Japan, but I mean, I have heard that they do have standing room only in China, but I mean, that just goes to show the popularity of that in that country. I mean, you have a country of 1.2 billion people, and they're mostly riding trains, and it's not just. And people saying, well, they got rid of their flights or whatnot. That's not true. China has some of actually the most amount of domestic flights than any other country in the world, and they've been investing in both systems. Their high-speed rail probably a lot more than their airline system.
Yes, absolutely. Well, in China, they've also built out all their airports. But
oh yeah.
So
I mean, not only that, but also their own airplanes as well. And we're not going to be selling them airplanes anymore here from Boeing. So I mean, we got to move on it quickly somehow.
I agree with you.
Yeah, and start building trains here in America like we've done so far. I mean, Siemens has done a fantastic job with the train sets that they've been building here.
Yes, they have.
Alrighty. I mean, other ways that we're just adapting through that. I mean, we've seen how Amtrak is now sanitizing the trains and cleaning up and trying to show people that, hey, it's a lot safer to ride on a train. Of course, you have a lot more space to move around and roam around, and we've done an episode before. People will probably see it linked over here, but you can be able to see that on trains it's probably there's a lot less of a risk of catching COVID-19 or any other disease for that matter, because you're not standing in one place the whole entire time, and you have place to move around, as well as the amount of sanitation that Amtrak has put there and the amount of measures they put have made it that you're a lot safer on trains. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, we actually have a webinar on our website where there's a company that's proposing to help Amtrak re-equip its Acela trains, so that they would have all private compartments and really up the air filtering throughout the train. So that's one approach. Just in terms of the fact that you are not as confined a space as you are on an airplane certainly helps. You're not, an airplane just has that one tiny little door and everybody walks by everybody else as they're
Yeah.
whereas a train doesn't. That makes a huge difference. And I was surprised to find out that Metro, our local commuter railroad, was actually running hospital-grade air filters on their trains 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So they didn't have to upgrade for COVID. They already had it, which made me very happy.
Yeah, exactly. And HEPA filters have been around for a while, and now they're doing quite a lot of business pretty much now, apart from the plexiglass makers. But I mean those are just a whole bunch of many solutions that are just coming out, in full force now because of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I mean, there's just a lot happening in terms of project going on. I mean, we've had, I think, the most amount of light rail projects in the last 4 or 5 years now that have been popping up as well. And I mean, that's important, too, to connect people within cities once they get through on high-speed rail, cities that do have light rail transit in order to connect those. And then, of course, there are more plans for high-speed rail and other rail projects that have just been popping up in the last 4 or 5 years. What are some of these projects that you're really more interested in seeing coming up, or what you're more excited for?
So, California is where this thing's going to be driven at because it's under construction now. And they've got an excellent plan for build-out. It's not an easy plan. California is a very mountainous state. So they're starting in the middle, which if you look at the network that they already have, they have a very robust network of trains and buses. And that middle piece that they're building will feed passengers to and from their whole entire system. So it basically doubles their ridership and doubles their revenue over what they're doing today to build that segment in the middle. And they're also moving forward to get full approvals to dig the tunnels they need to get the system to go fully from LA to San Francisco. That's huge.
Yeah.
Also, California, Nevada is Brightline is in the process right now of doing the geological testing they need to do to start construction for Las Vegas to Victorville. They're already doing the design work for Victorville to Rancho Cucamonga, where you could then hook up to an upgraded Metrolink line. So that's underway. That's incredibly exciting.
Right.
Kind of going around Texas, they need to get Surface Transportation Board approval, and then they're ready to start construction. We already talked about Brightline. There's exciting stuff happening in the Northeast Corridor. Georgia's in the process of designing a high-speed line right now. So there's a lot happening. And again, it's all about telling Congress to actually start paying for this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Congress does pay for a lot of things, and what's a drop in the bucket for high speed rail at this point? And it's not just give money and then just let things happen, but it's also the amount of investment that it's giving into the economy for people to go ahead and work and to go ahead and use these systems, and even for people who don't want to use high speed rail. How much congestion we're going to take off the roads and off of even the airlines because of this, and actually free up these channels and give people the amount of choices, the independence and freedom to pick whatever they please they want to go there. If they want to go from point A to point B in a car, perfectly fine. If you want to take a train, even better if you want to. Or if you want to take a plane, that's your choice. That's what we're all about here in this country, is giving people the choice.
Absolutely. Choice, choice, choice. I want to do what I want to do. And I want to take the train.
Exactly. That's what I want to do half the time anyways, take the train. I mean, we've been, me and Holly have been going around the country because she has to do these medical conferences that she goes to and whatnot, and we've been taking planes all over the place, and we're just sick and tired of it. Of course, that's the only choice that we got in order to get around the country. But I mean, if we had trains, I mean, it would just be a heck of a lot more productive. We wouldn't have to be, getting hotel rooms all the time. We can just go from one place to the other, do what we need to do, travel around a little bit in the city, and then just, head on back and catch some Z's while we're on the train. And that's, it's just a lot more convenient, and we're seeing everybody else doing the same thing. Why can't we just have it here?
I agree.
Right.
So we need to tell Congress over and over again, just do it.
Exactly. Just build it already. Just build it. Speaking of Congress, and speaking of, let's take you out for a loop over here. Congress has been busy on some transportation projects, but one that has really caught the distraction of Congress has been the Hyperloop. Now it's back in the news again since they finally found a way to cram two people in a little pod and get them up to 100 miles an hour on a 500-meter space or so. And not only that, now they're trying to go ahead and build a testing facility in West Virginia. They're trying to get this whole serious project in Ohio and to Illinois. I mean, what is going on?
Well, that tells me that people really want something different, and high-speed rail can be that something different. So Hyperloop as a concept has been around for many, many years. The first study I found of the concept was actually done by Stanford in the early 70s. So it's not a new idea, really. And each piece of it's not really a new idea. But really, when it comes down to it, the hard part's the right-of-way. And where are you going to put this facility? And it's not a technology problem, it's a political problem. And so what we need to do is really build a coalition around saying, we are going to create really fast transportation between major cities, and let's just make it happen. And let's solve that right-of-way problem.
Right. I mean, we can't wait anymore. I mean, people were thinking of the future already, and, people are living the future in some countries where they already have maglev trains in Japan and in China. And, Germany has the technology to do it as well. And we're over here, still dreaming about the future when we were, dreaming about it before and, back in the 50s and 60s. I mean, heck, I was playing with Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, and like the first two things you see in the game are a guy on a maglev train in Europe. I mean, like, this is what people think is the future, and we see this in a whole bunch of other media and whatnot. It's like, well, why can't we have the technology available now? We don't have to go ahead and have something that's even more expensive, like a Hyperloop that's basically a maglev and a vac train combined. So you have two very expensive technologies, one that we already know works very well, that we already have in practice, one that's even more expensive and a lot of people have declined to use because of not just the expense, but also the right-of-way usage like you mentioned, as well as the overall cost and safety that you have to do in order to depressurize, a system that's more than 500 miles in between.
Yeah, I don't really know much about Hyperloop, but the challenge really is getting a national commitment to create ground transportation between major cities. And as we've said a couple of times already, it's proven technology, it works, it's incredibly versatile, it can be done in phases. Let's get moving on high-speed rail.
Yeah, and the technology is here. That's what we need. Oh, man, wow! This is just—it's just incredible how much potential we have, and you just gotta put that in. Any updates or what do you want to see happen in the future in the next 4 years or so with whoever's in the White House at this point? Because just things are just all up in the air at this point. I just turn off the TV half the time. It's like, you know what? Whoever's there in January is whoever's there at this point. Just fix this up, please. Whoever.
So the. In terms of stuff I'd actually like to see happen, let's get electrified high-speed rail operating someplace as soon as possible. And, there's some challenges under the current funding streams to doing it in one presidential term. but let's ramp it up and make it happen in one presidential term. That would be an exciting thing. On a bigger perspective, every once in a while, theoretically it's every 4 or 5 years, but it doesn't really quite work out that way. Congress sets the policy, the national policy on transportation. That, at this point, expires at the end of September, so less than a year away. Let's get folks around the country saying we want a national high-speed rail system and really make it work.
Exactly. I mean, let's just hope. Well, not just hope. We gotta also, we gotta tell Congress, we gotta get active, and we gotta get out there. What are the ways that we can get people active? I mean, even if you can't get out there, or if you're confined at home in some of these states, what can the normal citizen do in order to help out and be a part of this?
So the easiest step is if you go to hsrail.org, hsrail.org, you can sign the petition that we have. I'd like to get to 10,000 people on that petition. We're at about 7,000 right now. But more importantly, that puts you on our mailing list so that we can give you updates on when you should call Congress, updates on what's happening. That's a small step you can do. Another step is just pick up the phone and call Congress. And it's not like voting. You can do it once a week. You can do it once a day if you want. Call your congressman and tell him you want trains. That's a second. And we actually have a way in our Take Action site where you can get those phone numbers really easy. The third is if you make a donation, and if you do it in the next couple of weeks, we can send you a face mask.
There we go.
And you can be a member of the High Speed Rail Alliance, and it's a really comfortable face mask, and you can be a part of the effort to create a national movement for high-speed trains.
All right, fantastic. And let me just talk to the audience right now. We're going to have hsrail.org, correct?
hsrail.org.
hsrail.org. So you're going to see it here in the video, down below. You're going to see it in the comments. I'm going to pin it on the comments. If you're watching this video right now, just pause it for a bit. Well, pause it after I say this. Just go ahead and click there. Sign the petition and get that done. That is the least that you can do in this video, okay? I'm not asking you to subscribe. Do share the video or whatnot. I'm not asking you anything else. Just at the very least, just go down there, hsrail.org, and sign the petition. That takes less than a minute. I've done it, plenty of times before. You've had other petitions on there, Rick, and I mean, some of them have been pretty successful as well. I mean, in getting the attention needed for high-speed rail here in the Midwest and for other rail projects. But you just go down there and sign the petition, and make sure everybody else that you know can also do the same thing. And call your congressman. Again, you can just go there and you find out who your congressman is or congresswoman, and just go ahead and call them and just let them know. Even if their secretaries or their aides are on there, just go ahead and keep calling them and keep bothering them about it. At some point, you'll get an answer, or you'll get some movement out of it. And that's all we got to do. We just got to let Congress know that you're not just there in D.C. to go ahead and have lunch with your lobbyist on K Street and have some lobster. You're there to go ahead. You're there to work for us. If people are asking you for high speed rail, if people are asking you for better infrastructure, get it done.
Yes, and the key, they know whether or not you vote. They don't know who you voted for, but they do know whether or not you vote.
Oh yeah.
So make sure you vote in every election. Is really also super important because they listen to voters more.
Yep. All right. We've gone through a lot so far. Anything else you want to add into there, Rick?
That's it.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and thank you for all the hard work that you are doing, because it's people are making this happen. It's not just one person. No one person can do that. It is a whole coalition of people, and of course leaders like ourselves that are helping to get the information to people and inspiring others to go ahead and be leaders within themselves and do the same thing as well.
Excellent. Absolutely.
All right. And anybody, just leave also in the comments below if you want to see Rick, and we can have a live stream with him, and you can also ask him questions directly as well. Let us know. We'll go ahead and put a poll out, and we can see if we can get that set up in the future. I mean, what would you think about that, Rick?
I would love to do that. Absolutely.
All right. Perfect. All right, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in. And thank you all for, being a part of this and making this happen. 2021 is just around the corner. And not only that, we just have the whole rest of this decade to come. And hopefully this disease, this pestilence will be rid of us once and for all. And we can get moving on with our lives. I mean, I don't know if it'll go back to some sort of normalcy that we had, quote unquote, before all this. But we need something, some new paradigm to get us moving forward out of this.
Absolutely, and trains are that new paradigm.
All right, perfect. Thank you all for watching. We will see you all next time. Take care.